We've got Rex on by remote, so we appreciate that. And so we will start off with
Got a few copies of it. There's three.
minutes
There's three.
from January 11th. So I don't know if you've had a chance, everybody's had a chance to look through the minutes and review.
I did, Stan. I looked at them before I came up here, so I didn't see any problem with them unless Steve did.
No. I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded, minutes approved as presented. Thank you. Okay, we'll start off with the auditor. Tony?
Okay. Let me get my stuff here. Here's the minutes. If you wanna-
And then you're okay with signing Rex's name?
Yeah, I had checked with Julie Marie, I don't know, a while back, and as long as, if Rex approves something, we can put his signature and put via remote.
Okay.
So I will do that later.
Okay. Very good.
And the first thing that I have is payroll claims that were paid on the 7th of January in the amount of $332,194.92, $332,194.92, which is about normal.
Okay.
There's that.
Thank you.
Motion on that.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion, we accept the payroll.
I'll second, Stan.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay. Next I have accounts payable claims in the amount, and this is kind of back down to where we're used to seeing it. We had a couple of big weeks there and stuff, but this is back down to 334, 791.35, 334, 791.35. Give you a couple minutes to look through that and
Rex, that's probably something that you don't have access to, I suppose.
No, I did not, Stan. So I won't second that. You're going to have to do that. I didn't
okay.
see it.
All right.
Is there anything outstanding that you got a question on?
I'm just looking through it. We just got it dropped in front of us here a little bit ago, so
Okay.
Steve and I are both looking.
It wasn't balancing, so we just got it done. I don't think there was anything crazy in there that I noticed that when I was entering them.
I didn't see anything standing.
Yeah, I don't see anything either in there. So I'd take a motion.
I'll make a motion, we accept these.
Okay, I'm gonna second that, Rex.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Okay?
Okay, got it?
Yep.
And next I have the monthly clerk report, which I put in front of you. That was for December, submitted by Clerk Vogelweed. Looks like that is fairly standard as well, as you can look through it there, and I'll see if Mark wants to look through it. Nothing extraordinary that I saw in there.
Okay, Rex, it looks like he's got everything balancing at 263, 386.23.
Okay.
There's that, by
Any
the way.
questions on that?
Here's the
No.
claims.
Need a motion on this, Van?
Yep.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion to approve claims as presented. I'll second that. Motion carries.
All righty. Last thing that I had, Mark, you're gonna do those resolutions on your time, right? So the last thing that I would have then is, a health insurance claim to Adams Memorial Hospital in the amount of $3,900. And that is for the health fair that was held. And it should show the flu vaccine and the Chem 30s.
Okay.
So that's what that is for.
Did we get that
$3,900.
all straightened out with them?
Finally, yes.
Couple of the tests came back different.
I think there were 11 or 12 tests that came back. Yeah, that weren't the right tests that were ordered, and I was one of them.
They
So,
got that all
Rex,
straightened out.
They came back with a claim from the hospital for $1,100 for influenza vaccine and $2,800 for Chem 30 tests for a total of $3,900 then. So.
And Tony, you said all the issues that Shannon had a question on were resolved?
She is nodding her head yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I'll make a motion, Rex, that we pay that.
I'll go ahead and support that. Second.
Okay, motion carries.
That is all that I have for my report.
You didn't have anything from Allied?
It was a credit this week.
Oh, okay. You know how much, Tony?
I think the credit was in the amount of $35,000.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Now, probably, once they get, because of the holidays, they did not get the payment for the $68,000 or whatever it was that was approved at the last meeting, but once they get that, they will then, by next week, we should have a health insurance claim. But as of right now, because of that, it was positive, it was credited.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Rex, I don't know if this is a good time. I don't know if we want to talk about the putting specs out for bids on health insurance. Is that anything, Mark, that you had wanted to talk about?
Well, that's
Or-
kind
That was
of,
a general,
it's
that was
kind
a
of been
general-
put on hold for this year because it's just too late in the game to try to get all these specs done correctly before the February deadline.
It's for liability coverage, not health insurance.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but
You're
develop-
talking about- it's your
Developing
property
the
and casualty.
specifications so that
Okay.
this year we can bid out insurance for the
Okay.
county. But the county has to do,
Oh, okay.
the county needs to update their capital asset plan, which we're going to do today. And the department heads need to report back all capital assets. And so we just need to update that. We do that every couple of years, but we need to go through that and do an inventory of all assets and make sure that we have all assets covered under our specifications when we go out to bid. You know, over time, you know, as we have added assets, then we have added coverage with our current carrier. But when we go out to bid, we need to have an updated capital asset plan, inventory of assets, so that we develop the specifications so that everybody's bidding on the same coverage.
Gotcha.
Because we don't want to have gaps in coverage or holes in coverage.
That could
What
hurt
is
us
our
or
time?
the company.
What's our time frame on that?
Just sometime this year.
Okay.
We would go out to bid on that, and it may be later,
October
September,
or
October, something like that.
Okay, all right.
And we're working on all of that information. As a matter of fact, I'm gathering a lot of that information. The sheriff's had to get some stuff. So we're getting that over to Star right now, so that they have an accurate,
How much detail does that go into?
it's a lot of detail.
A lot.
Is it really?
It's a lot of work.
And the other thing is that it took a lot of effort to get in place your cybersecurity coverage.
Sure.
And so to try to bid that out in a short period of time is not.
We didn't want any
not
gaps,
Yeah.
because that could hurt us, or it could hurt the insurance company that's doing it as well. But
Okay.
I looked up the amount of the credits, just for your guys' information. The credit is in the amount of $34,292.72. And that we had a medical claim of $15,101.13, but we had voids in the amount of $49,393.85 for a credit of $34,292.72. But again, once they receive funds because of holidays that are behind, then that next week we should have, well, hopefully, I wouldn't mind if we had more credits, but we'll find out next week.
Okay. All right. Did you catch all that, Rex?
Yes, and then just to, I told you, Stan, that Carla from Star Insurance is already working on the traveler's policy,
Okay.
so we don't want the lapse of coverage. But she was also looking at some of the other companies that they do business with as far as getting quotes there too. So we're just going to wait on what Mark comes up with as far as the specs.
But we had sent, Carla asked for a bunch of stuff that we have either already sent or are sending. And actually, we had already gotten some of that information together for another possible competitor until we realized, you know what, this is kind of late in the game to try to get this together this quickly, because you're going to miss something. So,
Yeah. I would
she's getting
agree.
all of that.
But we need to review that and make a decision by February 1st.
Yeah. Yep.
On the level of coverages in the renewal.
And I just sent her an email this morning, but haven't heard back yet. I said, hey, is there anything else you are waiting on from our end? So
Yep.
Make sure that we get everything. They had some questions. Gosh, we got several emails. One, Sheriff Dan was on, one, HR was on. It was just different things they needed from different departments. And so we've been working on getting her that.
Is that something that she would come in to present, or is that something you would present to us?
She would come in
Okay.
and go over the renewal with us.
Okay.
But yeah, we probably need to get that on the agenda for next Tuesday or the following.
Yeah.
So we can discuss it before she comes in.
Well, yeah, or Tony and I can certainly go over the coverage levels with her and tell her, here's what was added, here's what was deleted, so that their quote reflects, assets as we know it right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little bit like when you do your renewal for your own insurance company, your own homeowners, your own auto, and, unless you've made some changes, or unless you've gotten rid of assets or you've acquired assets where you want to make changes in the level of your coverage, it just renews.
Yeah.
You just go through the renewal. Sometimes the premium goes up, usually doesn't go down, but it just goes through the renewal. So that's what we're doing is just making sure that everything that we want to have covered is covered, and that we don't have things, and you can make those changes during the year as well.
Okay.
When
As
you add
assets
assets
change.
during the year,
Right.
when we acquire assets during the year, the auditor's office or, whoever's acquiring it, but at the auditor's office notifies them that we need to pick up coverage on this vehicle,
Mhm.
or we need to take coverage off. And so those things happen during the year.
State Board of Accounts is tracking capital assets in every county. The last couple of years, they've been much more stringent on that and the depreciation and everything else. So we've been gathering that for them, which also helps us with with the insurance and stuff. Like we got highways recently, and we're updating everything that we have, the things that we don't have anymore, for the very reasons that Mark just stated. Dan had sent over the stuff from the sheriff's department regarding all of that, so we're getting it.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wasn't sure what the urgency was on getting that done.
Well, as far as State Board of Accounts, we have to have it done by March when we submit the annual financial report. But as far as the insurance part, we pretty much have to have that ready here pretty quick.
We just need to make sure we approve the renewal before the policy ends.
Oh,
It's just simply approving the renewal.
Yeah.
We would like to, if we're going to make changes in coverage, we would like to do that at the time we approve the renewal. But if we can't, we can make those adjustments afterwards.
okay.
You know, or if there's assets listed on the renewal that shouldn't be on there, we'll take them off, and there's assets that should be on there, we'll add them.
And they'll adjust as needed then.
Then they adjust the premium accordingly.
What is our threshold, Mark? Is it 2,500? Is it 5,000?
On the capital assets policy, from what we track, it's anything 5,000 or
5,000? Okay.
Yep.
But I didn't know which it was. I thought it was 5,000, and that's what we told them, so I'm glad it was.
Okay. All right. Very good. I appreciate that information. So, okay, Tony, anything else?
Nope.
Okay,
I'm just curious to see what Brad and Paul have to say on it.
all right, yeah, if you want to come on up.
I've been instructed to go quick. So,
And he's got handcuffs.
Man with a gun. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
I got just a few things to go over today. I do have one permit, and it is J County REMC on County Road 450 South between 150 and 100. They're gonna have to set a few poles and run an entrance in for some freezers. So, yeah.
I didn't know J County RMC came up that far.
Yeah, they actually, in parts of the county, they come up to 300 south.
Okay.
So they come up quite a ways. Yeah, and it's weird the way it's laid out though. So,
Is that being set like on, they're wanting to set a pole for freezers?
yeah, they're gonna have to get from their main line to this property, they need to set like 4 poles. And then they'll run an entrance into the building for the freezers. Yeah.
Okay.
And we didn't see any problem with it. I mean, there's room there to put the poles in, and as long as they keep them behind the ditch, that's our biggest thing.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
I'll second that, Stan.
all right, motion carries.
All right, well, I'm getting this signed, just kind of as a safety thing. You know, we went out and salted and sanded yesterday, did intersections, you know, maybe bridges, curbs, that kind of stuff. And it's still slick today, but just as a public safety, just remind everybody, take your time, drive according to road conditions, be safe.
Was yesterday the kind of day that pays to pre-treat? No.
You want to say surprise?
Oh,
It was one of them where I was out, drove around, went down 000, doing some stuff. Hour later, somebody calls me and goes, "Hey, are we gonna go out?" I'm like, "What do you mean go out?" Well, here in that amount of time, it started that freezing drizzle, and it was like boom.
Yeah.
So it was a very
so
quick.
there
Not
was
it
no
wasn't.
chance to pre-treat.
They weren't calling for it, so I mean, it was a surprise.
Okay,
And if I don't know if anybody was out, it caught everybody by surprise, even the state,
okay,
and that's unusual. So.
yeah,
But no, we had a good day yesterday, got everything covered and taken care of. They went back out today, touch up, look at things and make sure everything's good.
good, thank you.
All right, now, I haven't never said this before, I'm gonna turn my hat, and put on the engineer hat.
All right.
Oh, boy. You look a lot smarter.
Well, I'm taking it back off. Being longest enough, got our next cycle bridge inspection contract, and the state changed a little bit of or how they want them, a program they want them to use to do load rating factors. So basically in the agreement that you guys signed with them, this is just a supplemental agreement. And honestly, the only change, you have all the normal verbiage here. The only change is that whereas the LL93 rating factor is required to be generated and reported in Braden when the method used to determine the load rating factor. And then down below, it says on page 1, appendix D, the original agreement, paragraph 4, the following after the unit price chart. So it's just something that the state changed. They just got to put in their contract. It doesn't affect anything. It's just needs done the
Just
correct way.
A different way to calculate the load rating,
Yeah, they got to use a different
a
system
different system.
to program it in. That's all it amounts to. So it just needs, if you guys are okay with it, like I said, it's one paragraph. But to do the legal thing, they got to have it and have you guys sign it.
Okay.
So, I mean, honestly, that's all it is, unless it's one line mark. I don't think it's that
Is there
big a deal.
anything you need to look at, or?
It's
It's
just
just-
make a motion to approve. Can I get a copy of that too?
Yeah. It's all this legal beagle, and there's.
Need a
more
motion to approve the change?
For the load rating factors.
To approve
And then there's a
the
paragraph.
amendment
That's-
to, or the
that's fine. That's
supplemental
all it is.
agreement on the
Yep.
load rating factors. If I get a copy of that and the address for that permit, both of
Yeah.
those things, that'd be good.
Okay, and take a motion unless you got any more questions.
I'll make the motion.
Second that.
Okay, motion carries.
And then just while you're doing that, I've been, back in 2017, they hired somebody to come in and do a small structure analysis. So basically, the bridge inspections, we have to do that. That is required. Small structures is not so much required, it's just recommended. So in 2017, they did that. That's kind of how you determine what your projects are going to be. So I've been going out again when the weather was fit. I've been starting to look at small structures and see what projects we can get lined up for this next year. And then the new Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, I've actually been digging into that a little bit, and what I picked up through it is they're trying to make it easier to receive money to fix county-owned bridges that aren't actually under the federal aid. Because if you look at the federal aid, highway administration, we only have like 2 bridges that are county-owned that we could even apply for federal money. Well, this here, the way I'm reading it so far in this act, is they're gonna try and make it easier for counties to get some of their bridges and that replaced that they normally wouldn't get done as quick. And it looks like there's gonna be a session down at Road School and they're gonna talk about it. So I just want to give you guys a heads up. It's something, I'm kind of looking into also. And I believe that was it for today, unless you guys, any questions, anything?
When is road school?
They moved it back a week this year. You remember the date, Paul? It was March. They moved it back a week from when it was last year because they're gonna do some building projects down there. And the week we go is spring break, so the students won't be there.
Okay,
So,
but it's in March, though.
yeah, it's in March. And that's all I have.
All right. So as far as the small structures, are you gonna do a priority?
Yeah, so when they did that analysis, they actually did do a priority list.
Okay,
And, I kind of went through it just to make sure I'm caught up. Tim had quite a few of them already done. And I'm looking at ones that need done that we can handle, we can't handle, we need to hire out, that kind of thing.
that's what I was gonna ask.
Yep,
How
there is
much
a
of that
priority
you're gonna
list.
Take on yourself.
Yeah. So I basically look at them and, if it's a general rule of thumb, if it's a 3-foot or smaller culvert, we can handle that.
Yeah,
You get 3 foot and over, or you get some of the structures that are only 7, 8 feet wide, there's no way. So, yeah, that's another reason I'm going out and looking, just so I can determine what we can do.
now as far as on some of those, when you're gonna ask for help, are you gonna approach Beam Longest and Neff, or do you wanna talk to,
Yeah,
get other?
yeah, I was gonna talk to them and see what, it would take. They're gonna be small projects.
Okay.
You remember when Tim would come in and, maybe a $30,000 to $50,000 project, they're not huge, but it's stuff that needs done that we can't handle.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I'll be approaching engineering firms at that point and figuring out what we need to do.
okay. All right, well, we appreciate you handling that,
Hey, I'm trying.
so.
Gets me out of the office for a little while.
Yeah, gets you away from Paul anyway.
That's not a problem.
Not really, he's right there.
Yeah. So that's all I got.
All right, very
Thank you.
good. Thank you. Okay, as far as building maintenance, I talked to Rick a little bit this morning, and he told me that he wouldn't have anything to report today. So, we are, we had scheduled a meeting with Matt from Core Facilities, which that was canceled due to illness. And I don't know if you had a chance to talk to him after that,
He's
or,
gonna get with me this week so we can get that finalized and
Okay.
get our specs done,
okay.
so you guys can sign an agreement.
Okay. And that's looking into the replacement of the chillers, so. All right. All right, Mark, you wanna come on up? One subdivision today. You're gonna have to describe them to Rex. I don't know if I'm that good. There's our microphone. Okay. So this is on 000 and 1150 South, and it is a Chad Hershey. He has a parcel that's 32.4 acres presently. He is doing a minor subdivision, which will turn that into 3 different parcels. To get to the 2 smaller parcels, there has been an easement put in, so you can get to all 3 pieces. All are more than 2 acres. And I know he's got one son for sure that is wanting to build on one of those parcels. And
What is this part right down here, the .87? Rebecca, is that
that's not part of it. That's
not
a
part of
neighbor.
it? Okay,
That's an existing parcel. That's this existing parcel right here.
gotcha.
So we're just dealing with it, with what he owned.
Okay.
So.
All right, so acreage we're fine, frontage we're fine.
Yes.
And so to do a minor subdivision like that, he doesn't have to have sewer available. He can do it.
As long as he's got 2 acres.
As long as he's got 2 acres, he can do it with private
Correct.
septic. Okay.
Correct.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion to approve.
Yeah, Stan, you better second it.
Okay, I'll second that. Okay, motion carries.
That's all I got.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So Rex, do you have anything else for Mark while he's here?
Apparently not.
Mark, we're gonna do this today. I don't know if you want to be around or not. We're gonna do it here at the end.
Okay, so.
All right.
Okay, you're gonna wait with that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Shannon, would you like to come up?
I don't have anything today.
Don't have anything? Okay.
Good.
Mark?
Couple of things. We talked a little bit last week about a possible amendment to the zoning ordinance, I think afterward. And my understanding is that the current zoning ordinance has a setback of 3,000 feet from a confined feeding operation to a school, and from a confined feeding operation to a residence, I believe it's 800 feet. Is that right, Mark? And so we believe that needs to be adjusted, and I guess the recommendation to the commissioners is to, you have the authority by statute to recommend a change or amendment to the zoning ordinance to the Plan Commission. I contacted Pat Hess, who's the attorney for the Plan Commission, as far as what we need to do to get that ball rolling. And I believe that under the statute, the commissioners can initiate that proposed change, and in fact you can, which is in the Indiana code. And all you need to do is pass a resolution making a recommendation for that amendment, recommending that amendment be made and send it to the Plan Commission. They will prepare the appropriate ordinance and have the appropriate meetings and hearing if necessary to make that change And then if they approve that, then it would come back to you in the form of an amendment to the ordinance, and the change would be final. So I've prepared the resolution. I'll read it for you. It's up to you, gentlemen, if you want to act on that today or not. But at least I've got it prepared for you, then it's up to you. So you can discuss whether or not you want to recommend such a change and any reasons for it. So anyway, it's just it is a resolution, and I'll have to have Tony probably print this upstairs and bring it down, because for some reason I can't print here. But it would be resolution. Well, before we give it a number, let's just talk about it and see if it's something you want to do today, or if you want to wait and do it some other time, because I've already got resolutions numbered. So
If you do that one today, it would end up being number 5.
correct. But so I'll just go through it since Mark's here. We'll cover it while he's here. But anyway, it's a resolution proposing an amendment to the text of the Adams County zoning ordinance. And you specify that it's an amendment to the wording in the ordinance, the actual one of the setback requirements. It's not a change to the zoning maps. You're not changing zoning classifications for, from ag to residential or ag to industrial, or you're not changing the maps at all. It's just a change to the text of the zoning ordinance, so that it says that the Adams County Board of Commissioners, as the county legislative body pursuant to Indiana Codes 36-7-4-602, may propose an amendment to the text of the Adams County zoning ordinance. And it says that the Board of Commissioners desire to propose an amendment changing the required setback from a school, or setback for a school from a confined feeding operation, which is a CAFO or CFO, from 3,000 feet to 800 feet. And so therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners as follows: the Adams County Board of Commissioners hereby recommend and propose an amendment to the Adams County zoning ordinance changing the required setback for a school from a confined feeding operation from 3,000 feet to 800 feet. And that the Board of Commissioners request that the Adams County Planning Commission prepare an appropriate amendment to the current zoning ordinance and hold the necessary meetings and or hearing required to give such amendment effect. And that would just be adopted by resolution by the Board of Commissioners. So, I think the reason for it is in thinking that if the setback from a residence is 800 feet, the setback from a school could be the same. Instead of 3,000 feet, 3,000 feet is 3/4 of a mile, and would be virtually impossible to meet those requirements. So I think was the thought process behind it. I don't know, Mark, do you have anything to add?
I wonder why that was originally 3,000 feet.
If you want to afford that to me, I can print it up there and take it down.
I know they're mostly looking at the safety aspects, but I think part of it was, and it was discussed with some of the people even in the Amish community, that there's sometimes there are schools that are half a mile apart. There's over 50 schools in our county right now. And I think part of it was trying to encourage adding on to schools. And because it can be done without sprinklers and stuff, you can still put more people in them. And some of those schools have been added on to in the past 8 years. And they were hoping more of that would happen, so you wouldn't break out and lose acreage to schools. But it just is putting too much stress on how things get done. And I know one group that was in a few months back trying to get a location when their church/school breaks into two pieces. A lot of times it's the amount of kids in the school, but it's also sometimes some beliefs that are out there. So they all have a little bit different rules, and some want to go this way and some go that way, and so they can't just add on, because maybe half of the kids in there, they want them to learn or have a different set of ideals given to them. So it just doesn't work. That being understood, that's the reason for rethinking that and trying to get it so that, because losing 2 acres per school, a school that hasn't really, it's not disturbing out there in the country. It's not, other than kids playing outside, which is not usually a problem. I've never had anybody complain whatsoever about noise or anything like that. So as long as I get put in a responsible location, it's still a decent distance away from some things. And we try to make sure they're not on weird hills or something. So several buggies coming out at a time at 3 o'clock and, vehicles coming down roads. We try to make sure that doesn't happen. But other than that, it just didn't seem like, one thing sounded like a good idea and it wasn't.
So this setback would work both ways, to where if there was an existing school, that setback would apply to any CFO
Yes.
that wanted to.
Which is the same as it would to a house or a home.
Okay.
So, yes.
Are we gonna have the two separate setbacks whereas we've got 800 feet from an IDEM building or 1320 feet from a county building, or are they both gonna be the 800 foot?
That's up to you on how you call it out. I think I wrote it this way in the letter that you asked for, Steve, that because it's 9 months out of the year, it's 7 hours, 8 hours out of the day, I would do just 800 straight for schools. We even actually, it's on our program now, Ethan will go in and actually draw a radius around every school. So when somebody comes in for livestock building, we click that button. So immediately they're easy to spot and there's a big circle on the map. So it's, I personally would just go 800 and one measurement, but that's just me.
From your experience, is there a different environmental impact to the neighbors between an IDEM building and a county operated building? I mean, would there be a reason to treat them differently?
There can be. I don't know that it would affect a school so much, but it's, IDEM buildings are much more regulated. So meaning, the manure always gets handled, I shouldn't say always, there's always an aberration of somebody that does something stupid, but IDEM takes care of it. But normally, the manure is handled correctly as far as removing it and spreading it and where it goes, on top of handling smells, because you can actually add chemicals into the pits that control, to a point, smells. So in unregulated, you usually have none of that kind of chemicals added. Yes, sometimes, we've had in the past, manure going totally in the wrong spot, poured on ground, it's been in rivers, creeks, things like that. It's not all of them, by no means, but it happens. And so there's a little bit of impact to that. As far as how it would impact that school, it'd be the 500 feet. I don't know that it would be a big deal for something that people don't live there, they don't shower there, they don't, they're not sleeping there. I just don't feel, and quite honestly, most kids probably go home and live in a place that actually is working one of those buildings. They might have one that's 100 feet from their house, because your own operation can be as close to your own home as you want.
Mm-hmm.
So it just doesn't feel like that would be harmful in any way.
Okay, Rex, Steve, how do you guys feel? What do you?
I'd pass it today if Rex is interested. I mean, I'll make the motion.
Yeah. Mark's recommendation was, if I heard it correctly, he would agree with the 800 feet, right?
Yes, with the 800 feet, Rex.
Yeah, he would agree with that. Yeah, I would support that, if Steve.
Okay,
I would wait and do the motion. If you're gonna approve that, let's wait until after we do these other resolutions that we already have numbered, and then we'll introduce that one. We'll do them in order. So,
Okay.
all right, so the next resolution that we have to consider is Resolution 2022-3, and this is a resolution of the Board of Commissioners establishing Adams County Asset Management Plan. And it just recites the code's authority, giving authority to use a governmental entity to adopt that plan. Therefore, be it ordained as follows, and we've got a definition section that defines annual reports, assets, department. Department shall mean the various divisions and offices of Adams County that are responsible for a specific function or functions for the administration of Adams County government. Department head shall mean the elected official or persons appointed by the Board of Commissioners for the County of Adams who are responsible for a county office or department. And we also define depreciation, disposal, which means the disposition of any asset or assets by commercially reasonable methods that include public auction or other means of sale. Policy then, all departments shall purchase assets pursuant to the Adams County policy for purchasing, copy of which is attached. And so, Tony, that should be attached. Our purchase policy, which we have currently, should be attached to this resolution. Okay. And that's the one that says, you have to have the money in a budget, it has to be appropriated. And if you spend more than, I think, $2,500, you have to have the permission from the Board of Commissioners, unless it's budgeted.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it.
So that would be attached, just so that it's all together. Disposition procedures, department head shall dispose of any assets under its control through an auction, sale, or similar commercially reasonable sale in order to invite competitive bidding for the assets being sold, unless it's de minimis. All such sales will be reported and approved, coordinated with the Adams County Board of Commissioners. Reporting procedures, department head shall report the assets that have been sold to the auditor in the month following the sale of assets. Asset sale proceeds should be deposited with the auditor. And just for your information, it's not that often that you dispose of assets. Usually, if you're going to dispose of assets, will do an auction or a consignment auction, and you gather those assets and do them all in a batch. Occasionally, you've disposed of vehicles and you published a notice and taken bids on things like that, or equipment. Annual reports, each department head shall be responsible for submitting an annual report that shall consist of the inventory of the assets of their respective department to the auditor for Adams County. That includes the 12 months prior assets purchased or acquired by the department during the previous 12 months having a value equal to or greater than $5,000. So we're not talking about every single, laptop and everything that's acquired. I think as far as IT assets, we track that separately anyway. But if it's 5,000 or more, that needs to be reported. Disposal of any assets of the department and the amount of sale proceeds for the sale of the assets, and it cost of repair any assets of the department. There's a section on maintaining records. Auditors shall be responsible for maintaining and tracking information contained in the annual reports. That includes identification by name or number assigned for the assets, initial cost, depreciation for the previous 12 months, if any, accumulated depreciation, disposal amount, if it was disposed of, if any, and the estimated useful life of the asset. And basically that's it. We just need that to be approved by the commissioners. We'll adopt that, and then the auditor's office will coordinate with the department heads to update our current inventory according to this policy. Any questions on that?
No, not here.
I sent that over to Tony last week, and he looked it over. And we also looked at what the State Board of Accounts requires, and I think this is what we need. Okay. And that's Resolution 2022-3. So if you want to adopt that today, we need a motion to adopt that, and we'll get it signed and give it to Tony, and then we can get working on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Stan, I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt Resolution 2022-3.
second.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Mark.
Yep, and I'll send that down. The first one here is printed on 2 pages, so the second page is the signature, and the other one's single, so the third page is signature on it. Next is also Board of Commissioners Resolution 2022-4. And this resolution vacates your prior resolution 2022-1 concerning the requirement for employers with 100 or more employers to show proof of workers' COVID-19 vaccination or negative weekly testing, and to have a vaccination policy in place no later than January 10th. And it just says that you already adopted that resolution, but it was contingent upon a ruling from the United States Supreme Court concerning the OSHA mandate, and also recites that that was struck down recently by a decision of the National Federation of Independent Business versus OSHA. And now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Adams County that resolution 2022-1 be rescinded in its entirety, with the effect that all terms and provisions thereof be rendered null and void immediately. So I think I mentioned when you adopted that resolution, if that policy was, or if that rule of OSHA were to be struck down by the Supreme Court, that you could adopt a resolution vacating it so that it's clear that that's not a requirement. Do you have any questions on that?
Can't sign it fast enough.
That's 2022-4.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second that, Stan.
All right, motion carries.
And then I'll make a copy of this. Taller chair.
We get paid for our signature.
And then this is Resolution 2022-5, which is the resolution recommending a change to the text of the Adams County zoning ordinance, then to change the setback for a confined feeding operation from a school, excuse me, from 3,000 feet to 800 feet. And it's sent to the Plan Commission then for their appropriate action on that proposed change. Just need a motion to adopt that resolution 2022-5, and then we'll get that sent to the Plan Commission.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, I'll go ahead and second that motion.
Okay, motion carries.
There's 4 of those.
There'll be a few of those coming around. You need one for your office room?
Yeah, I need one because I'll send it to Pat S.
So I'll need one, Mark will need one, you guys can have the other extras.
You can send one to, email one tomorrow when the Plan Commission.
With the date won't be wrong. We can't do that.
Does it make any difference?
Oops, I
Can't be.
got to change president's names and stuff. Does that matter? You just,
Yep.
cross it out and change it.
You want us to sign them anyway, or do you?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, go ahead and sign them, and then you can put on here Rex Moore electronically.
Yeah. You just cross out the president part.
Yep, I just wrote it down there.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry about that, I didn't catch that.
I'll sign Rex's name via remote when I get upstairs.
This one's the same way, then resolution 4 will be the same way.
Yep. I sent that audit letter response to Tony. I don't know if I copied you on that, if you need that for State Board of Accounts.
I'll scan it and keep it.
Very good. Anything else?
Just, I know we were gonna talk about updating your seated spending plan. We have the current seated spending plan was in place for 2020 and 2022, and you need to adopt one for 2022, 2023. I think Bree's getting us the numbers on that for anticipated collections so that we can prepare that. I don't believe I have those yet, but as soon as we get those, then I can get a proposed ordinance to you, and then if you desire to make any
That's the
changes.
ones that. Is that the new ones?
Yeah, this is probably what I need, so I'll need to
Okay.
revise that ordinance.
She may have some,
She might have, I just didn't see it.
at least as far as she had gotten on it
Yeah,
to that point.
your prior one was adopted in February. I think a lot of times we try to adopt those by March. But it's just a matter of plugging in the
Because
numbers.
that's our current numbers. I don't know if you got it. Rex, I don't know if you got that email from Bree on the seated numbers. That's what Mark's looking at.
Okay, if she would send it to my personal email, I can get it on my phone. I
Okay.
could read it up here. Yeah, I don't have my iPad with me. But my personal phone, I get emails off, pulled off. I think she has that, I believe.
Yeah, she sent it, but it probably went to your county.
Yeah, I probably went to my county and, but if I want to read it up while I'm up here for a few days, she could send it to my personal.
Well, she had sent the previous ordinance that was done in 2020. And then she had also sent along the projected figures for 22. So, once you get a chance to look at those, and then we can discuss it and see if we want to make any changes.
Sounds good.
So,
Yeah, 2020 and 2021 was the county portion was, and this is per year, was 1,023,469. And over the 2-year period, let's see,
is that after the hospital bond was?
that's after, yep.
Did you get those from Bree?
Yes.
Okay.
So that would be it would now be per year, the county portion per year is $1,061,023.50. So it's up about, a little less than 40,000. So we'll put that in a new ordinance form and send it out to you, and then you can decide how you're going to allocate that.
Okay.
That, as we've indicated below, that the hospital portion is automatic. That's because it's tied to the bond issue for the hospital, and you can't revoke that until those are paid
And
off.
their portion is just half of.
It's half of it, yeah.
Okay.
And then we talked to the council, or I indicated to the council last week at their council meeting, just reminding the council if they were interested in allocating any of the ARP funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds, for use for sewer infrastructure project, that would likely have to be done in February or March. But again, that has to also be acted on by the commissioners. So in order for that to be done, it's something that the commissioners would also have to approve. And so that's something for you gentlemen to think about. If that's something that you want to consider, then you would need to approve, adding that to the spending plan for those funds so that the council could appropriate those funds.
So we could do an additional out of ARPA for them to approve on that.
The commissioners would, yes, they would amend their ARPA spending plan to include that as a project, but then the council would have
Right.
to we'd have to advertise for an appropriation and then the council would have to approve it. So it takes both boards. But I just give you that as information. I know the sewer district's project number 4, which is for Oakwood Edition and Andrews Edition north of Decatur, is probably going to, well, they're going to receive bids first week in February. They're probably going to close on that sometime in late March. And so they would have to have the funds available at closing, and that would enable them not to borrow funds on that project. They wouldn't borrow any funds. I think in the meantime, they're going to plan to borrow, but if the county approves that use of funds, then they would not have to go through that borrowing and incur that debt. So that's up to the county entirely.
So this is not involving any engineering funds. This is just getting the work done funds.
Well, it goes towards the total project cost.
Right,
The
right.
project cost is estimated at about 6.4 million, maybe a little bit less, depending on how bids come in. They've got a $5 million grant from Stormwater Infrastructure. And so that's 5 million. The question is, where do you get the other 1.5, up to 1.5? And the only way is they have to borrow it, unless the county would commit and appropriate up to 1.5 to make the difference up so that the district wouldn't have to bond and borrow, in which case they wouldn't. And so then that borrowing cost and then the debt service payment in the future over the next 35 years, they wouldn't have that payment. But
So Rex and Steve, how do you feel about that? Do you want to have more discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to more discussion on that.
Well, Mark, can we determine the exact amount? Let's say after they get the bids, let's say it comes in and they need 1.3 million. Or do we go ahead and approve up to the 1.5 and then disperse exactly what the shortage would be? Probably.
that's what I would do. I would just say you approve up to 1.5 and it limited to the amount necessary for the district to award the project without incurring any debt. And that's how we would word it. So that you're right. If bids came in at, say, 6.3, then they would only need 1.3 to close. Or
Right.
whatever the project cost is, because the bids, the actual construction cost, doesn't include engineering, but obviously engineering is part of it. So it's
Absolutely,
whatever they would need to not have to borrow money.
Sure.
Okay. Stan, I've been thinking about this quite a bit, and I mean, I see so many pluses on approving this type of project because Oakwood and out there at Andrews Edition, I mean, we are not only encouraging development, economic development, but we're also going to be able to save some homes that, that people would lose possibly. Especially Andrews is an older edition out there. It would be like Barrington Woods. If we had that much of a failure going on in Barrington Woods, we could have that same type of situation with the Andrews edition, and we know what the Oakwood situation is. So, I mean, I would be in favor of looking at that for sure. I see a lot of pluses in it. I don't see really any negatives at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, that's something for your information, it's just I know what the sewer district's timeline is to not have to borrow. And like I said, I think a decision would have to be made by mid-March.
Okay. So.
But I think it's a good use of the monies that were available, and it's a plus for the taxpayers.
Well, how about at this time if we plan on giving it just a little bit of time and having a little bit more discussion, and so
Yeah.
you have any opinion on that? As far as,
I'd like to research it a little bit more.
okay, so, but yeah, I think the sewer district has been a real strong effort of environmental management along with economic development, and as a county, we've always promoted that and promoted their work. So, this would would fall in line with those efforts too. So we'll go ahead and continue to talk about that. And,
That's coming out of the ARPA, right?
correct,
Of the 3.2 that we already have, correct?
3.4,
3.4.
so.
Yeah, we're gonna get another 3.4 and, should get it in May of this year.
Okay.
Mark, question for you. On the final ruling on the use of these ARPA funds, did you see anything in there that created any more, let's say, leniency in how we use the funds?
There was something that came down here, I think, 2 weeks ago, where it looks like a use for emergency communications and radio systems may be possible without having to prove loss of revenue. And so that's something that I know Julie Marie's looking at right now. So that's a possibility.
Okay.
Is there a list
That
out
would-
there of what we can use those ARPA funds on?
I think I sent that to all the commissioners.
Yeah, you sent,
There's a link.
you sent.
Oh,
a
that
to
link,
NACO.
okay.
That's that NACO link, and
Okay.
it lists on there
All right.
the whole final rule.
Mhm.
I sent it to Julie Marie, Mark, and commissioners and council as well.
Yeah, and then the discussion on that and the interpretation and regulations on that's about 147
Yeah,
pages.
it's lengthy. At the conference, at the end of the month here, the Association of Indiana Counties has the legislative conference, and I am assuming that at some point they'll talk about the final rule from the county's perspective.
Yeah, that was the interim final rule.
Now, that was the interim. We now have the final.
And then you'll have the amended final rule.
And then you'll have the final rule.
But we definitely know that the regional sewer district would be applicable.
The sewer water is definitely
Yeah,
one of the
definitely.
main things listed. Who's calling us, Mark?
Commissioner's room.
Phone number.
Hello?
Possible stand. When your phone rings, it says spam risk on it.
I'm sorry, who are you trying to get a hold of?
Yeah.
Senior Citizens Office? Oh, let me see if I can.
Council on Aging.
Council on Aging, do we have a phone number for them?
It's the same one that we did have, but I don't know where I found it. It's the same number it always was if you have it anywhere, Stan.
We've got a list here. I'm trying to find.
Hang on, let me see if I can find it.
COU.
I've got 5316.
724?
Yeah.
5316.
That's an old list.
Try this phone number, try,
Because they're in the Merit Center now.
it's 260-724-5, no, it should be 5316. All right, try that. Okay, all right, bye.
Thank you.
That's it, that's all I got.
Okay, well, it did sound like there was, Rex, when I looked through the first couple pages of that update before I started to fall asleep and my eyes glazed over, it did look like there was a little bit of increased leniency there in the stop, or the loss, the $10 million loss of
You know,
revenue.
the revenue loss, even with the changes in that, we wouldn't reach that threshold. However, what Mark was talking about with the mobile phones or whatever, that if they don't use that revenue loss calculator, then
Yeah,
but they up the
but I
percentage.
mean,
from
it sounded to me
4.1.
like they automatically granted you that $10 million.
That's what it,
Well, would Dan's proposal on the communications updating that software then possibly come under that?
Yes, possibly.
and I think cybersecurity was also listed, hardware and software for cybersecurity was definitely listed on that final rule as well.
You can't
Okay.
see it, but the sheriff has a silly smile on his face, so I don't know.
Hey, Dan, good luck.
All right. So yeah, it sounds like we're moving in the right direction there anyway. So, yep. Okay. Very good. Anything else, Mark?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Rex, anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay, anything from the public? Ed?
I just have a quick update on stuff coming up next week. Well, first of all, let me say the certificate sale's still on for Tuesday, March 1st. We have 9 parcels eligible. Everything's good there. Next week is our financial planning committee meeting at 9 a.m. And that should be quick and easy. I emailed all 3 of you commissioners a lot of different forms for you to look over, and I just did it this morning. So we'll cover all those in detail next week. Also next week, a week from today, Xsoft training. That software for the tax system has been installed. It's all ready to go. And my office is going to train tomorrow or Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. And we'll be ready to go here shortly into February. As soon as the auditor's office gets their training, we'll be able to flip the switch. So we're excited about that. The other thing that we're pretty excited about is that I had talked to you all about a month ago that it didn't look like I was going to be able to do my VPS value payment system, the new credit card vendor that I wanted to work with, because we had an auto renewal clause with our current vendor. But in speaking with them, I have tried since September to get our current vendor to do everything that I want to have done. We're just a very simplistic service with them. Our current vendor cannot get everything done that I want done. And I've given them since September to try so. Mark and I have been talking, and it looks like that is what's going to allow me to get out of the auto renewal clause. I've already got some paperwork from them. We're going to continue that. Mark suggests that I send one more paper on my letterhead to eGov, basically to get out of it. If we can get everything taken care of this week, and then a week from today, sign the new VPS contracts, that'll give me about 1 week of wiggle room to be able to do it in time for everything for the upcoming tax season. So time is of the essence, and but we got time. But it's this close. So I just want to let you know, give you an update. Kathy Mitchell is here from the Adams County Council. She is my liaison for my office, and she was quite interested in that, and she's looking to be here next week to check all that out too, so.
Good.
All
So
right.
as far as transferring over from the current system to eGov would not be a big transition then?
No, in fact, they will install the VPS system. That'll give them time to test everything, including the new credit card readers that we will have. There will be a new 800 number that people will call into if they're doing everything online, or by phone, by phone. And that will eliminate us handling their credit cards. That will eliminate us even knowing their credit card numbers.
So we won't store any of their information in
And we
their
don't
system.
currently now, but we do
Yeah.
see it. If they
And you need to have-
counter, we do touch their credit cards. And Mike Brown says we got to get completely away from that to where we don't even know their credit card numbers, which I don't want to know. You know, I don't need to know that. So-
Remote meeting.
It looks like,
Rex, did you have something?
No, I'm sorry. Somebody had come in my room, so I'm sorry if I interrupted.
it looks like everything's on track, but I need to get that contract signed next week to give me 1 extra week of wiggle room. So that's all I
Okay.
got.
Well, good. I hope that works out then.
Thank you. It'll be up to you guys next week. Thank you.
All right. Kathy, do you have anything from council?
Not
Okay.
today. I'm
All
just
right.
in awe of how quiet it is in your meetings.
Oh,
You can pass that on to the rest of the.
Harlan, do you have any words of wisdom from Geneva?
Thank you.
I got a question.
Okay.
The Supreme Court made their ruling on that deal last Friday, that you guys had prepared legislation just in case. Is that null and void now, or what happens to
We
that?
just voided it all. We
Yeah.
just did that. It just got vacated.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
What we just did today voids that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other one was just in case they passed it. And
Yeah.
they didn't, so
Yeah.
they voted to negate it.
I was very happy to see the way the Supreme Court handled it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Steve Lehman probably was too.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else from general public? Okay,
Make a motion, we close.
okay, we got a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, I'll make that motion, Stan.
Okay, moved and seconded, meeting adjourned. So-